Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Recovery Support Services ECHO, or RSS ECHO. This is a training brought to you by the Center for Substance Use Training and Mentoring, CSTAT. So you all know we are a division of the Be Well Institute here at the University of Texas, San Antonio, UTSA. My name is Andrea, and I will be helping to facilitate this conversation today. But first, we want to remind you that the session is being recorded for later distribution, and you will find it later at our Be Well Texas YouTube page. To help with attendance, please enter your names, email addresses, and organizations on the chat. This information will not appear on the recordings. And today we're starting with a presentation from Brett Lovins. He is going to be discussing recovery workplaces and changing organizational culture around substance use. So we want to welcome our very special speaker, Brett Lovins, today. After he finishes with his presentation, as usual, we're going to be opening the floor for your questions and comments. And then Angela is going to be discussing a case with us. And this is the part where we definitely want to hear your takes, your views, and your perspectives. Please remember that the Echo series in general are the space of all teach, all learn. And what that means is that your perspectives and your views on the content discussed in these sessions are extremely important for the trainings. So please feel free to unmute yourselves and take part of the conversation. So we're going to start first with some introductions from our RSS hub. Let's see, Richard Hamner, how are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Glad to be here. Richard Hamner with Be Well Texas, one of the hub members and a person in long-term recovery. It's good to see you guys today.
Thank you, Richard.
Mhm.
Kim, would you introduce yourself to the group, please?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. It's afternoon here in New Jersey. My name is Kim Govak. I'm a woman in sustained recovery management, and I'm also a National Certified Peer Recovery Support Specialist.
Thank you, welcome. And Susie Walker, welcome to RSS Echo.
Thank you. It's great to be here today. I'm Susie Walker. I'm Executive Director for the Recovery Partners of Vermont. I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and I'm really proud to be a member of the Echo Hub team. Thanks.
Welcome, Susie. And Angela Henson.
Hi, I'm Angela Henson. I am a recovery support peer specialist, and I currently work at Abilene Recovery Council. And I've just been doing this about 6 months, so I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you, Angela, for discussing a case with us. And I think now we can start sharing the PowerPoint didactics from Brett Lovins. And Brett, before you start, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your role in your organization. Welcome. We see it.
Okay, great. I love that word. I just heard that a little bit didactic. I thought that's cool. So sounds fancy, and I'm happy to be here. As the screen shows, my name is Brett Lovins. I am also a person in long-term recovery. You'll hear more about me as we cruise along here. But early in this broadcast, I would love to. There's a lot of people here, so I'm not sure hands will work necessarily. But I am super curious about how many people have heard those three words strung together before: recovery-friendly workplace, and how long ago? I don't expect anybody to answer necessarily, but as part of this gig, I find this question is usually a room full of no hands. So if you have heard this before, that is wonderful. So I'll go ahead and advance slides. Is that the way we roll here, Andrea?
Yes, just
Okay.
go on.
Okay, go on. So Got a little timer on the side here because I can get, as my grandpa would say, I can get windy. If we're talking about guitars or recovery, boy, I'm all in. And I love these topics, and I'm very enthusiastic about the work I do. Obviously, this is sort of the disclaimer about these are my views, etc. And so the three learning objectives today, it was tough to choose. Recognize substance use is prevalent in the workplace as an issue. So I'm going to throw some stats at you that I think are useful and sort of sobering, pardon the pun. Understanding the origins of the recovery workplace movement, which you may or may not know, and then also the real world examples from my experience at Cisco Systems. And I'm going to move this little window over here so I can see the screen better. Okay. All right, so it's the elephant in the workplace. So I saw I don't know how many hands went up, so I don't know. I think I'm speaking mostly to a group of people that are in the recovery, what I call the recovery ecosystem. And so in my mind and heart, you are the heroes, and you work in this every day, and you know a lot of things. Um, the elephant in the workplace, and my experience with what I care about, which is to attack this from from the from the business level, is most don't know these things. And so this is again probably not something I'm gonna, no revelations here about it necessarily, but I'm gonna propose, and along the way here, I'm gonna continue to propose that this is a golden opportunity and a very real thing that's underway, and it needs to happen. So these are stats. I know this group has seen a lot of things about this kind of stuff, but there's a couple that I'm going to draw your attention to here. There's a bunch of them, and we'll get to more of them here. But basically, as I go into the workplace and talk to HR teams, safety people, etc., um, people know about it, but generally speaking, it's quiet. And that's that shame and stigma thing that I know everybody here is very well aware of. But it's everywhere. And so when I talk to an organization and they say things like, things like, we have EAP, we got this handled. There's some really strong arguments against that being a full stop argument, because the bottom line is it is everywhere all the time, and 70% of people with a substance use disorder are full-time employees. When I started doing this for construction in particular, this journey of learning about substance use disorder in particular with construction companies, seems to be where I am heading more and more with my work. I go to I spoke at the Washington State Governor's Safety Conference a month or so ago, surrounded by people in safety and construction, hundreds. And basically all of it was around PPE. So we're talking about falls, the big four, they call it the fatal four: falls, struck, electrocutions, and caught in or caught between are the big ones that all the hard hats and all the, safety vets, et cetera. But the stats are in 2023, the traditional construction fatalities are dwarfed by suicide and overdose. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that correlation, that string that ties them necessarily, particularly when we come into overdose, since, there's a lot of injuries in the construction trades and exposure to opioids, which I am recovering from as well. And I know how some of us really like them, and it can turn into a problem very fast. And this stat just makes me stop in my tracks. And when I show this to safety people, it makes them stop in their tracks. And they know this stuff. They tell me this stuff. But again, a lot of people don't know where to begin. And so recovery friendly workplaces is what I'm trying to do and help with that. Won't spend a lot of time here. I watched a few of the presentations that you all have online, which were excellent. And I saw a couple of the presenters here. And hello to you. My little screens are over here now, so I'm waving over there. So I don't think this is something that I need to spend a lot of time on, other than if you have this, it's suffering. And for me at least, as somebody who spent a lot of time self-deprecating and thinking it was simply a willpower issue on a daily basis, finding failure and willpower being insufficient while the rest of my life was doing well. Um, I wish I could have known this sooner. And these are the kinds of things, maybe in your workplaces and the places you go, are commonplace. But when I speak to organizations of construction workers, which I do regularly now, this is often not well known. So I share that with you because I'm going to continue to kind of draw this sort of demarcation as we go around what I call the recovery ecosystem and typical businesses. So, and that'll come into focus more as we cruise along. I could take questions too. Like I said, I'm windy, so I'm just going to keep rolling because I understand there's quite a bit of conversation at the end. This is another thing that is, again, something that is helpful to people because very often I'm the guy who would have been pissed off to hear this, right? All of this is turning me off. I'm out the door. I would never even sit here and listen to this. But if you start to talk about it in terms of a medical condition, things seem to change. And especially if you start to consider that not everybody will need treatment. Not everybody is going to get to the severe zone. For me, it was a 7-year process to finally figure out that where I could finally get to was I'm incapable of moderation. I wasn't capable of a lot of the labels, but I was capable of that concept. And when you start overlapping the idea of it being a medical condition, man, that should be early and often across our society, in my opinion. So I used to look at this video quite a bit. I used to work at Cisco Systems. I worked there that's the big IT company as opposed to the food company. I have to make that uh, distinction because it used to be that never happened, but often it does now. So I work at Cisco Systems, and I'm posing this question: what does a severe substance use disorder look like, right? I just shared with you a stat that 70% of people with substance use disorder are full-time employees. In this video, I was early in my time at Cisco, I was involved with a training video that was really pushed out into the marketplace. And I think this video has somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 million views. And when I first got, in recovery, the first couple of years, I used to go and look at this regularly because I know what's going on for that young man there. That's me, back with the tan shirt. I am so sick here, folks, and I'm being viewed by millions of people. And this is getting pushed out and sold as a training thing. And I look back on that time, and I won't go into the gory details, but suffice to say, I'm one of those people that could show up, but I'm turning the corner and getting very, very sick all the time. And I'm constantly working towards getting out of there and getting back to my drugs of choice. I was confused. I'm working in a huge company that has an EAP. I don't know what that is. Um, I don't know who I can talk to. I haven't told anybody, but it's getting worse and accelerating for me. And so, like I said, I used to watch this I'm not even sure if I can find it anymore. It used to be well watched. And, you know, a lot of us in recovery, there are probably some photos and things. And in my case, it just so happens it's been viewed by millions of people, which is nuts. So, all right, so that's the first part. The second part, again, recovery-friendly workplace. I'd love to just catch you up or add a little color to this movement. Because like I said, I've spoken to a lot of different groups and I asked the question, how many people have heard of those 3 words? This is a branding issue, right? Who's heard of recovery-friendly workplaces? And always it's zero hands. Governor's conference, everywhere I've gone, it's zero hands. So to me, at a minimum, I'm sort of a brand ambassador for this thing because the truth is it doesn't start with me. It's not some knucklehead who's standing up in front of the governor safety conference. It's built on quite a little history here. Starts in New Hampshire. Governor Sununu. He was a businessman who had I think he was a ski slope operator or owner, and he had a lot of substance use issues on his team, and so he implemented some procedures and some things to help his employees, and it worked so well when he became the governor. He brought those into New Hampshire, and I know all the people there. It's an amazing thing. So they're the start of it. Next up is 2023. I remember when this document came out. This is by the Department of Labor. Probably some people we all know here. Peter Gamon is kind of a friend of mine, and I met him at a Samson event for Recovery Friendly Workplace, and his team. We're being recorded, so I'm just going to say it anyway. Switched the name. So although we had Recovery Friendly Workplace up to that point, they changed it to Recovery Ready. So now we've got Recovery Ready and we've got Recovery Friendly out in the marketplace. And people ask, well, what is that? And it's unfortunate. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I have found that both land differently with different groups, but this toolkit right here, please look it up. I think it's a link in the slides too. It was a recipe. It's a call to companies across the US. Hey, we want to help you embrace your employees and change practices to help your employees. So the Recovery Ready Workplace Toolkit is a beautiful recipe. If I provide no other value today, then you having access to that link, I'm stoked. 2024, the National Recovery Friendly Workplace Institute comes up, and I'm actually I was one of the people that put together some of the certification guidelines for it. It's for companies that are multi-state, so big companies, and they've been rolling along and putting some great work together. And so now there's a national certification as well, and then there's states, and states are moving along, some of them faster than others, different kinds of ways that they're doing it. But the bottom line is most states have some kind of a program going to become recovery friendly or have businesses become recovery friendly workplaces. So I want to tell you a quick bit about my story. So I'm working for Cisco Systems with 80,000 employees. And from 2011 to 2013, like I said, I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker. In 2013, I won't go into the details because everybody that's an important part of our story, but I'm not going to share that here. But in 2013, I get sober. And for the next 8 years, I'm in disguise. If you ever seen the show Undercover Boss, right? I like that metaphor because I'm cruising around as someone in recovery who nobody knows it. I have my own shame and stigma. I start to share with a few people, but for the most part, everywhere I go, I'm in disguise. I'm interacting with people who don't know. The businesses don't accommodate particularly. And so this is an important 8 years for me because I experienced what it's like quietly to have substance use disorder and move around in the workplace. And during that time, I learned a lot. And I had some pretty important moments come along, including the movie. The Anonymous People was a huge movie to me. Greg Williams has been on my podcast. It's a very important documentary in my mind, as is his other ones. The Tipping Point is another really great one. And so in 2021, there were some circumstances, and I said, you know what, Cisco, you have basically zero here. Mental health had finally started to show up, right? It's getting its time in the sun appropriately. But substance use disorder, you type into this giant internal website, addiction, alcohol, etc., and you get some obscure, weird answer. And that's just not okay, right? We have an EAP, we have deep pockets, but for self-service, there wasn't anything. And so I come in with stats and I'm doing the stuff that I care about too, but that should have some impact, and it really didn't until I told a story that I'm going to tell you guys now. It'll be short. And I found that the power of story is probably I believe our stories are probably the biggest punch that we have in terms of having people listen to us. So I told this story and everything changed. So here's the story. Short and sweet. Cisco Live, 20,000 people come to this event every year. I've been to several of them, working as somebody who would sneak up to his room and get drunk all by himself. So the social aspects of my substance use disorder had gotten to where it wasn't very social. But in 2013, it just so happened that I'm 23 days sober. Nobody knows. And I go to Cisco Live in Orlando, Florida, to work an event that I've worked a couple times before. I'm in the back there, barely see me, 5 from the left. And this is what happens. I get to my hotel room. I don't know, I think there's probably a lot of people in recovery who have been around recovery. Folks, I don't know how to put on my pants at this point. I don't know how to be social. I haven't found a recovery community yet. I don't know if I'll ever do that at this point. All I know is that I'm faced with some unique situations, and my boss calls the team, which was about 80 people for our organization that were there supporting uh, the learning part of Cisco. And I'm told that, drop your stuff in your room and head down to dinner. We're all going to meet together to kick off Cisco Live, and we're going to meet at a Greek restaurant. And so I go there, and I'm sitting there with everybody else and trying to figure out how I do this. How do I do this? And we're not long into the meal. I mean, it's a Greek restaurant. They've pulled out all the stops. There's actually a belly dancer who's dancing in the middle of the table. The music's cranking, right? And they turn down the music, and my boss's boss, let's see, it's boss's boss welcomes everybody and asks everybody to stand up on their chair in the restaurant, and the staff is hustling around shots of ouzo. And I'm standing there with 23 days of sobriety, which was a lot for me. It was a big deal. And it's like I try to think of it through a cinematic lens, just tumbleweeds, the wind, or whatever. I'm standing the most alone person on the entire planet on a chair where my boss's boss has had everybody shuffled out ouzo, and I'm faced with something that I know very well. I know how to take a shot of ouzo. It's not my favorite at that point, but I know how to do this. I don't know how not to do this very well. And I'm being put in a situation that was completely unintentional, and it's extremely dangerous for me. So I don't take the shot. I don't know what happens if I do, but that story then changed everything. And all of a sudden, Cisco said, "You know what? You want to talk to the entire company?" They gave me that option. I'm like, "No," but at that point, I'd gotten a little more comfortable. And from zero to a lot at Cisco Systems, we built an employee resource group. I go from knowing this many people, 0 people in recovery, to about 200, like right now, right? Now, all of a sudden, we have a website set up internally where there's links and there's information and there's that self-service stuff that would have been so helpful to me, right? They give us the platform to start doing blogs. And so I wrote a blog called How Did Dry January Go For You? And it was hugely upticked and read. And suddenly now I'm getting pinged more and more, and we keep adding to this group. People that are in recovery, people that are struggling, people that are spouses or family members. The champions were there. We took and spoke with the events team, and they made massive changes to the events to accommodate this stuff. All of this is low-hanging fruit, folks. All of it. There's no magic here. It just so happened we needed some champions, right? And I happen to be the doofus who started it. So there's that. And it matters. There's so many of these kinds of things. Sarah in accounting, she's got a husband at home, right? That's my wife. She's not an accountant. She's learning and development. She's got a husband at home who's getting sicker than heck. And she doesn't know anything about EAP, in spite of the fact that the company has it. Construction site. Bill's 23 days sober. Good job, Bill. Here's a beer. Just like me with the ouzo. Like, does Larry or Steve or any of those guys know about this stuff? Probably not. And I'll have to tell myself I would have been somebody that would have pushed it, right? So that's my reality too, and something I have to deal with. And then opioids, of course, is everywhere. And I've heard a lot of stories about people in porta potties struggling with opioids and considering taking pills on the job site. So I'm on the downhill slope into the end here, watching my timer. One of the things that I've discovered in recovery ecosystems, because I'm outside of the recovery ecosystems, I come from outside the recovery ecosystem. I don't know a lot of these things, but I do know my story, and words can get in the way. They did for me. These words would have sent me through the door and out across the yard and down the street. And so that's a reality that I think that I know that the people that I'm talking to, I have to tread lightly. And so The disease word was useful to me. I'm not sure early on if I could have taken it, but I'm a lot of people. I'm the guy who's pissed off about this. I'm the guy at this cooler who says, you know what, you got to take, what do you mean you're not drinking? And in many cases, it is just not knowing a few things. It's not that I was a bad person. It's just that I wasn't educated. And that's where recovery friendly workplaces comes in with education kind of leading the pack. So I'm going to close. I think this is my last slide. I'm going to close with this to propose to a group of recovery friendly for recovery ecosystem people. I've gone to more and more conferences the more into this work I get, and I find myself surrounded by people that I would call in the recovery ecosystem. And I find that sometimes it sounds like Martian because there's so many acronyms and so many familiar terms and so many things that people say. And also I hear very often people will, scold another person for saying a particular word. And I understand the reasons for that. I'm not saying that there's, that I'm advocating for, not using proper words, etc. But what I am saying is that in many cases, at least in the work I'm doing with recovery friendly or recovery ready workplaces, they don't know that stuff. And in some ways, the fact that I don't come from that is useful to me in this work because I go slow, I'm careful, I listen, I pretend like I look it through the lens of my world. And again, I am just a huge believer that a very big bat, if not the biggest bat in the bag for our society to make a huge impact on shame, stigma, and people getting better understanding of this for themselves, their families, and their employees. There's just a ton of winning to do. And I will say right back to if you need a place to start, Google recovery friendly workplaces, awesome. Or grab that toolkit and look through it. They've done a fantastic job with that. There I am. Look at that handsome fella. I've done some things. I'm a certified recovery coach, dare to lead train board of directors for a place up here in the Seattle area, which I don't think I said I'm from or I live. And I got a podcast, and that is 23 minutes. That's actually 22 minutes. So I'll hit the stop button here on my deal. And thanks for listening to me. Hope I didn't put too many people asleep. I love this topic, and I'm really grateful to be here and to get a chance to share this with you. So thank you.
Thank you for being so strict with yourself with the time. I love it. With most of our speakers, we have to be sending them reminders. It's time for you to wrap up. So thank you for doing that. That was a great presentation, and I'd like to open the floor for questions and comments. I see that Dr. Clancy has a question or a comment.
Yes. So my story started in 2014. So this was during the time of over dispensing and over prescribing, right? And that was my issue. And now we understand it, right? But at the time we didn't. And so again, this was a very long time ago, 2014. My 11th birthday is this year or this month. Somebody had to remind me. It's like, oh my God, I'm 11. So time has passed. But when I reported myself to the EAP, they told my boss. And I know that fear lies within people that need help. And so that prevents them from getting help. Legally, what do you see has changed? What have you seen in your landscape? Maybe that, would enable people to trust their EAP.
Well, I've seen a few things in that regard. They're not supposed to. So the one that I keep hearing from HR professionals and safety folks is if you self-disclose, you're immediately covered by the Americans with Disability Act, ADA. And so now all of a sudden you've got the weight of law in your favor. And that little bit of information is useful to empower somebody. But we can't, there's always going to be people that do less than ideal things. And it sounds like that was your case, Kristen, and I'm really sorry that happened. But this is just another example of a story like that, equipped with that story to go in and talk to an EAP or an HR representative, just like the Uzo story. That's heavy. That's a heavy hitter in my opinion. And And that needs to stop. That can't be the case. And most of the construction companies that are brave enough to have me come around, they're already on their way there. So I have less of a barrier. So hopefully that's useful. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think your comments are really helpful because if you have an employee that's having an issue or having a risk, I mean, it takes like 2 years to get an employee to the level, that they need to be at to truly benefit the company. So if you're not protecting them and you're having turnover, like that's a huge loss of investment. And so the EAP, in addition to um, any of the staff, especially the supervisors, need to be educated in the way that you have said that you have to protect the employee. And by doing that, you protect the company, right? And sometimes I have a master's in healthcare administration, and it's like, sometimes you have to communicate that in dollar signs, which is terrible because I'm a person, I'm about to be 11. So, like, um, thank you for your presentation. And it's interesting having to walk the line between being a person in recovery and then also being an admin and recognizing that like there has to be a balance. But my job is to protect. I came into this world to protect the individual, right? I got the MHA to demonstrate that I knew I was doing for other people, but I'm here to protect the people. Um, and it's sometimes hard to convince, especially leadership, if they have no experience, um, that it's also in their best interest to protect that individual. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy. Lindsay, if you want to unmute, please.
Yeah. So, two things. I was
Cannot
under the
see you,
impression.
just so you know. Sorry.
Do you,
It's okay.
do what?
No, it's okay. I
Oh,
just want to let you know that your camera is not on. That's all.
yeah.
Thanks.
I was under the impression the ADA only covers individuals who are not currently using substances. So you have to be in recovery and not using.
If you
Think-
self-disclose, you have instant protection. And that it just so happens that, I check that box when I apply for anything, I have a disability, right? But no, that's not accurate. And I can, if you want, just send me a text or something. I can send you a link. Is anybody more steeped on that that's more able to speak to it directly? Because I'm just working off of people that have worked with me.
So my old school belief, this is Dr. Clancy again. Lindsay and I tend to hijack these beanies. We're awesome. But so my old school training was you had to be in treatment in some way for the protection. So you telling me that if I report to EAP, then that is new information for me. So thank you.
Not EAP. I don't think that's accurate. EAP is sort of a bolt-on in most cases, right? It's a third-party company, and how they relate and interact with the HR is, you know, at Cisco it was a certain way. I don't know how every company or business works, but if that's not accurate, that if they self-disclose to HR or whatever, everybody I talked to at the governor safety conference confirmed that with me. But I will do my best to find a link to back that up in a way that's more checkboxy.
Richard.
Yes. So I'm going to pull back on some of my old Oxford days. I know. So Paul Malloy, who started Oxford House, is also a senator, a United States senator. And so when they were he was getting recovery housing and all of that, there was another bill that was coming out, and he had uh, people who declared themselves in recovery to be protected under ADA. That was a rider that he attached to a bill so that, and then it later came out that people with alcoholism declared recovery or declared to be substance use dependent uh, were covered under ADA. He did that for his recovery housing, and so that hasn't changed. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of clarify that. I thought that was an interesting fact. Um, and then one of the things I wanted to ask Brett real quick is so I'm sure when you went to Cisco and you wanted to talk about a recovery safe or recovery focused workplace, what kind of anxiety did you feel, and was that more hypothetical? And did you find that it was really more accepted than you thought it would be?
I'm not one of those people like I haven't been I wasn't comfortable talking about it with people for the most part. I went into rooms where the word anonymous is above the door for the most part, and there were some things that suggested that I shouldn't do that or use my it was confusing to me, and that's why the movie The Anonymous People was so empowering to me because it really pulled the drape off of that in a way that I could feel. But that's like 2015 or 16 that I saw that. So I'm not comfortable, but I'm continuing to learn things. And I'll just say this, 2021, when I lost a friend to an overdose, and I went back home to Yakima, Washington, and I'm in a room full of people for his memorial, and nobody knows that I'm sober. That was sort of a tipping point for me. And I knew right then and there that I'm done being quiet on this. But as far as how comfortable I was, Richard, going in there, zero. And when they replied after that story, they said, "Hey, Brett, why don't you have a conversation with our medical director in front of 80,000 employees for, oh my God." The answer is no, I don't want to do that. But there was a part of me that I'd just taken some Brene Brown stuff. I was finding my courage, my vulnerability, and I said, F it, I'm entering the arena on this. And I've been there ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Wanted to say, I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I know that there are still companies who part of the hiring process, they are still allowed to test to see if you're using any substances, right? That's still happening. Just a
Yeah.
question.
Many. Yeah.
That's definitely still happening, hi, it's Kim. But as far as the Americans with Disability Act goes, there are reasonable accommodations that need to be made by employers once a person identifies as being in recovery. It's the issue of if you get caught, right? If a person gets caught on the job, or test positive on the job, that's a whole different story. But if you admit that you are in recovery and you're struggling with substance use disorder, then there are protections, and they are called reasonable accommodation.
I see. Anyone else who would like to speak to these? And I know that in this sessions we had had several cases that we have discussed where people are having issues finding employment because of their history of substance use. So I'm sure that any of you would have something to add to the conversation.
I was going to ask Richard, so recovery is in many ways supposed to be self-defined, right? So if I disclose that I'm recovery to an employer, is that supposed to mean complete abstinence? Is that supposed to be my definition of recovery? Like, what is that supposed to mean? That's what I want clarification on. Thanks.
It's as you define whether you're in recovery or not. And I think that's the movement where we're going to, and that's the understanding of it. Uh, yeah, let's see. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, the person themselves defines what the recovery, if they're in recovery or not. So that may or may not, it may, we're not using that word anymore, but it may be like a risk reduction, or it may be some other model of recovery.
Can I
And
pop in on this one real quick?
Yeah.
So in my mind, at least, what recovery friendly and recovery ready workplaces do is circumvent some of this stuff that we're talking about right now. Not that that stuff isn't prevalent or important, but the idea is we go toward the culture. We get people like me awareness that encouraging everybody to get as drunk as a skunk with me isn't necessarily a good plan. And as a matter of fact, it's dangerous for people. So, so on the one hand, I'm not going to be a lawyer and be able to talk all through that stuff. But what I am going to be able to do with all sincerity is once people know things, things change and the culture changes. And I'll just give you one example. At Cisco, one of my last hurrahs there, the sales group, the sales event, which is notorious. 15,000 salespeople come from all over the world to this event. And of course, salespeople are, typically fond of drinking heavily. And I put some of the people in our ERG with the events team to tell them what it was like to go to that event every year as a sober person. And they made some changes. And that year, they offered for the first time a sober happy hour, not knowing what would happen, figuring it would be empty, or it would be, or it could be, or whatever, not knowing. It was the first event to sell out. So the appetite for this, and you can see it in the non-alcoholic beer section as well. We're undergoing change, and the workplace is ripe for this. And that's an example where I think it spells it out. And one of the thing about money, 81 billion is the estimate of lost revenue. I didn't even talk about those kinds of arguments because most of the time those have fallen on deaf ears in my experience because they're so used to it's a hidden tax and they don't even know where to begin. So although important, anyway, back on mute. Brett, back on mute.
All right, so the conversation is great right now, and we might have Brett back if he wants to with us because I know it's a topic that probably, we can discuss from different perspectives. But in the interest of time, I think we're going to go quickly to the announcements and then we're going to move to our case discussion. So, Julio, if we can share announcements, thank you. And just to remind all of you that if you're interested in receiving CEUs after this class, you must complete the post-session survey, and please make sure that you answer yes to the question related to CEUs. Your certificate of completion should be sent to you 2 or 3 weeks after this session. Next. And we are starting our new webinar. This is the Proof and Progress Recovery Science webinar series. Great webinar. We invite all of you to register. We're sharing with you the link right now for you to join us. Starting Friday, December the 12th, we're going to have Lauren Gilbert discussing availability and effectiveness of peer support services and different services. For more information, go to our website, and we are sharing that information with you right now. Thank you. Next. Remember that the Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring CSTAT offers technical assistance. This is a free service for all of you in the community. If you need technical assistance of any kind, just go to our website and complete that form, and someone will reply to you in approximately 2 or 3 days. So we are sharing with you the link, but if not, also all you have to do is go to our website, go to where it says contact us on that tab, and you'll find the TA form. Next. And we're calling for presentations. So submit proposals for presentations and posters that highlight practical solutions, emerging research, and collaborative approaches that improve outcomes across substance use continuum of care. Join us in advancing substance use education, innovation, and recovery across Texas. Please join us. We're sharing the link with you. It's texas.org/symposium. Please submit your presentations and let others know in your organizations that might be interested. Next. And next month, remember, again, we're moving our recovery support services session 1 week up. It's going to be Wednesday, December 17. Don't miss it. And I think that we're ready to share the case form. And Angela, if you'd like to briefly give us like the highlights of this case. Thank you.
Okay, so I can do that. So currently I have a peer. She is around 25. She has a history of substance use and incarceration. She recently lost custody of her son due to an open CPS case. She also reports that she has experienced trauma in the past and that she has mental health challenges. And currently, she uses marijuana as a risk reduction approach. Currently, her main goals are to get a divorce from her husband and to secure employment. So, my obstacles are that she lives in a very small town, a good ways from where I'm currently located, and with no transportation. And she recently also lost all of her belongings in a house fire. And the due to funding reasons, I am unfortunately unable to travel to where she is to have one-on-one peer communication. So we are limited to just via phone. And so she does show interest in wanting to receive recovery support services. She recognizes that it would be a good for her to have accountability and all of that. And so we have also discussed options of use of her getting in touch with the legal aid, maybe identifying like remote, flexible employment, things like that. And we've also discussed things like having a plan to meet shorter term goals than the long ones. My question is like with the barriers that we're both facing with transportation issues, and what are some alternative methods that I can have engagements with her that y'all have found effective with clients in rural areas before? Also, like what state resources have y'all used before in similar situations that might be helpful to her?
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, so we're opening the floor for questions and suggestions for this person. Let's hear from the group. Lindsay.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that I've worked with a lot of people who had CPS cases. I've had myself on all sides of it. And I like definitely offering support, with the appointments if you can, like even if you just show up virtually. A lot of the times I will I've had to have somebody who would get me on the phone, right? Just to like and put me on speakerphone with the CPS person was talking to them so that, we could not, compare notes and things like that and make sure everything was understood and really just offer that support to my participant. As far as resources, the statewide, like the Be Well hotline is really good. There are quite a few hotlines that offer substance use, like help with substance use. And then also, I cannot remember the name of it, but I'll think of it in a few minutes. There's a program that's just outside of, I think it's Galveston, that actually helps people with substance use deal with CPS. Like that's their whole thing. So I'll try to find that name of that place.
Thank you. Yeah, if you can share those resources with us. Other questions for Angela?
Also, if I might add, it doesn't have transportation, so that is a big barrier. That's our main barrier. And she also, the rural community that she lives in is so small that there are, I'm like barely one grocery store. So she has no access to for any of the resources.
Now, I have a question, Angela. We were
Yes,
discussing
ma'am.
that in the pre-huddle. What is the situation with her child? Does she can he see him at least on the weekends? What's the situation?
So her uncle has her son, and she is allowed supervised visits upon when it's okay, when it's when they can agree on a certain time or a certain date. But again, her son lives in another state, so due to transportation and things like that, that she's not able to. And I'm just barely been doing this 6 months, so I'm just trying to figure out ways that I can be helpful to her in achieving some goals, and without being able to do the one-on-one in-person engagements, and how to overcome the obstacles that she's facing.
All right, so she has several difficult situations. We were talking about that before, especially for someone who's so young, 25 years old, losing her son due to the CPS situation. She just lost all her belongings to a fire in her house. So there are certainly, like, as you mentioned in your case, there's going to need like a plan, and then breaking down that plan in small little parts to see if, how can we help her in a more realistic way, I guess. And I'd like to hear something more, like more questions or ideas from the group. Or the Hobbs, of course. Or Brett.
I think Kim has her hand up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Angela, I was just wondering, have you tried any like like collaborating with other agencies or connecting with entities like 211 to find out if there are resources that are closer to this individual that you guys can collaborate and try to come up with a strategic, better, strategic plan.
That is a great idea. I have not done that, so that is a great idea, and one that I will implement. Thank you.
Kim, I'm sorry. I think you had your hand up. You wanted to say something.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay. I always like to lean into the people who are in the state, right? First, because you guys have an idea of the resources or lack of out there. One of the questions that I had, and let me just tell you, for somebody who's doing this for 6 months, Angela, what a great job I'm thinking, based on what you were able to pull out as far as her strengths, identifying one goal to work on from the start, as opposed to, because she has a lot going on. She also has trauma and mental health issues, so we're not even sure where she is with that, right? So my question was, the county that this person lives in, is there a local recovery community organization? And also, I'm out here in New Jersey, and I know Unity Recovery is out here in Pennsylvania, but I also know that they offer recovery support services in Texas, and they have telephonic services as well. So I don't know if that is an option or a resource for her. That's the first question. And the second question is, in rural communities, often there may be faith-based resources or other community resources directly in the community that may be able to help with some of her social determinant of health needs.
Right.
So I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
So currently, I think the major barrier is that she doesn't have transportation. And so the county that I live in services Region 2, which her county is covered under. And so I am the resource for her, like her, but to help her. But it's just the transportation barrier is there are no recovery groups there. In her specific town, there aren't any recovery groups, so, or local support, or like anything. Like when I say it's a small rural area, I'm like, there may be 200 people there. It's kind of out in the country, little uh, rural community, little thing. So,
Chandra, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just real quick. I might have missed some of these details, so correct me if I'm wrong, but does she have access to a computer?
no, ma'am,
Okay,
she
that's
does
what I
not.
thought. Okay, no problem. So, this is obviously a case by case basis when it comes to this, but something that I have had surprising success with working with parents in recovery in CPS programs is actually, with the peers' permission, of course, and consent form signed, right, is communicating with the case managers and the CPS workers about the participants' goals because we have had CPS workers and case managers that have been able to arrange things that we were not able to arrange. And that's not every CPS worker. I know I was terrified of CPS when I started in this place, but I have been I can't even tell you. My heart, my heart has gotten sizes bigger, right? Because I have seen some CPS workers go above and beyond and out of their way and really respect peer support and respect the peer relationship and want to do what they can to help that person. So it could be an option. I don't know about her specific team, but just something to maybe to lightly touch and see how it goes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I will look into that. Thank you.
Good to hear that, Chandra, from CPS. Definitely good to hear. And I was going to ask um someone here from Unity. Oh, Melissa, do you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit more? Are these meetings available to anyone nationwide? Melissa Simmons.
Yes, I can do that. I'm the statewide director for Texas, and Unity does have telerecovery services, so we can have peers that meet with people virtually. And then we also have the online meetings that are good for anybody in the world. They were on Eastern time, so if you look at the schedule on the website, you have to remember what time zone you're in. But those are people from all over that get in. And you can do that with your phone or with the computer. You can keep your screen off. You don't have to talk and share, but it's there for anybody that wants to. And they focus on recovery as opposed to their disability or their addictions.
That's
Thank
great.
you. Mhm.
Richard.
Yes, real quick, I wanted to ask, and this may or may not have, I, when you talked about the divorce and the various other things, I just wanted to ask if intimate partner violence was involved, some kind of domestic violence, if that was an issue or concern, because there may be assistance there if that was something that.
Yes, sir. Yes, there was. And she has expressed, like we've talked about going through West Texas legal aid to get some of these put into effect. But again, they want you to come in person. And so it's hard for her to get here, and I'm not able to travel to get her here. So, you're
That may open her up to more resources or more groups to be able to help. Not sure of
okay.
that, but generally that helps in many areas.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Good to know. Michelle De La Rosa, would you like to say something about your comment on the chat about finding a sober living?
Well, if I would just ask the participant if she was willing to move into a sober living, closer to her recovery coach, closer to her kids. Um, that would be my step one. And then from there,
Yeah,
just
but that's not her.
find her something as far as the sober living. I'm sure that the sober livings will have Wi-Fi, transportation. I mean, I would do that, and that would make it easier for her recovery coach to help her
Right.
be successful in her recovery. I feel like being so far from the community kind of and being isolated
Yes.
will there's possibility of relapse. Um, and then knowing that you can't, there's no help out there. I mean, a lot of people in mental health especially would be like,
Yes.
I'm too far, I don't get help, there's no help out here, and then there's no transportation, she doesn't have a job. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in her recovery, and I would definitely try to find her sober living close to you, close to her, close to the community that can help her. And then I guess I don't know, did you say you were in Harris County?
No, ma'am, I'm in Taylor County,
Okay.
Abilene.
Okay, yeah, there's really nothing out there. I'm sorry, but yeah, I would find her something where there's resources, I guess closer to your center where I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you. That's a
And
really good point. Thank you.
great. And we're almost at the end of the hour, so the conversation is going great and would like to hear all your inputs and opinions. But in the interest of time, I'm going to give it to Kim if she can give us a quick summary of some of the suggestions for our case today. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I can definitely say that we're happy that she is able to get supervised visits with the uncle, with the agreed upon time. We discussed that as a hub, and we're glad that that's able to happen for this young lady. Um, Virtual support, but she does not have a computer. We've determined that that is also a barrier for her. The Be Well hotline was mentioned, also
Mhm.
some CPS resources. Absolutely love the comment that was made that some CPS workers, and then Amanda's hit me back right now because she's at Unity Recovery. She must have had to jump off. But some CPS workers are amenable to helping, right? Not everybody's, some may be willing to help and provide some resources. So that may be a thing. The intra-agency collaboration was mentioned. So calling 211 and seeing if there's anything there. Um, and the online meeting, well, telephonic, I believe, call-in meetings from Unity Recovery can also help to build out a community of support. There may be some people in the county that she's living in, which is we've heard is very, very rural. Um, but they're, starting out with the small goals, like you said, identifying the most important one, and the sober living resource is really great too, if she would be willing, because again, she was experienced the fire and everything like that. So if she would be willing to move someplace that closer that may have some resources for her. That's what I came up with. Great case, Angela.
Thank you so much again to our speaker, Brett Lovins, for a great presentation. Thank you to Angela and to all of you. We'll see you on December 17 on the next RSS Echo, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.